Phelan, greetings. I want to continue along the line of questions that Senator Fisher had about munitions. You mentioned increasing capacity, building new facilities, and I think that's going to be important in some cases. However, there's also cases in which the Navy has consistently underfunded munitions production, and therefore we have excess capacity that isn't being fully used. That's the case, for instance, outside Camden in Arkansas, the Highland Industrial Park, where we build many of the munitions the Navy uses, like the Standard Missile 3 and the Standard Missile 6. What are your thoughts on fully funding those programs so we can get up to full capacity in the facilities that we have now for the Navy, for the other services, as well as for foreign partners?
Thank you for the question, Senator Cotton. I know it's an issue important to you. Appreciated the time we got to spend in your office. If confirmed, I will look into that. I think it's crazy to not have facilities running at full capacity. So if you're under capacity, it just raises expense in effect. It's one of the things I've noticed when I've looked at all these different weapons programs. It seems like the next missile costs more than the first missile, so you have no economies of scale. That is a prescription for bankruptcy. I don't understand how the second and third one is not less than the first one. And that's something, if confirmed, we intend to dig into very hard and understand. And I do think having more flexible manufacturing when you have excess capacity in plants that are already making munitions, we should absolutely make sure that we're taking advantage of that capacity.
Thank you. I do agree that's probably the quickest and easiest way to address some of these shortfalls. As I said, we're going to need more manufacturing capacity, but making sure that current lines that have excess capacity are fully used is probably the quickest way we can get there. And I can assure you that we have lots of people in South Arkansas who are eager to do that work. One other point I'd like to make is just to encourage you, once confirmed, to work with our State Department on foreign military sales. That's another way to send the demand signal to our industry, not just our services, but our friends in Europe and the Middle East and East Asia, cutting through the red tape and allowing them to buy the weapons that we're providing here to provide for their common defense.
If confirmed, I agree with you.
Thank you. Senator Fisher also mentioned the sea-launched cruise missile, nuclear, also occasionally known as SLCM-N. I'm glad to hear you're committed to carrying out the law there. I think it's an important part of our deterrent. Another critical part of our deterrent is the Columbia-class submarine. It's one of the three legs of our nuclear triad. It's the most survivable leg because they're almost undetectable. That guarantees a second strike capability against Russia and against China in particular as China continues its breakneck nuclear buildup. Are you committed to continuing the Navy's highest priority on the Columbia-class submarine?
Thank you for the question, Senator Cotton. Yes, the nuclear triad, and in particular the Columbia-class submarine, is critical to the triad and its deterrence, and we have to absolutely make sure we get that done.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that. Some people up here in Congress need to hear it as well. The surface Navy has not been in a good place for a long time. I've made this case for many years now. 2 destroyers years ago were wrecked in the Pacific. The Bonhomme Richard caught fire. Commanders were found to be overburdened by administrative tasks and under-focused on warfighting. You had a friendly fire incident with the Gettysburg in the Red Sea in December of '24, and just recently a collision between the Truman and a merchant ship in the Suez Canal. I raised this for the last administration. It didn't seem like we made much progress on it. What are your thoughts on how we can get the surface Navy in particular back up to the standards of leadership and execution that the nation expects?
Thank you for the question. I did read the study that you helped commission in 2021, and I think one of the captains mentioned compliance-centered warfare versus warfighter-centered warfare. This comes back to the kind of culture issues that I mentioned, which is I think that we've lost some of the adaptability, some of the accountability, some of making sure that people are doing their jobs and those who are being promoted are the right ones. And so I think there's also a lot of pressure on these captains and these commanders today because we're undermanned, and that puts pressure on the entire force, which is very difficult. So I think this comes back to recruiting. I think it comes back to retention. I think it's making sure that we promote the best. These people are operating huge assets that are very, very valuable. And so we need to make sure they have the skills and that they have the requisite capabilities around them to execute on this. So if confirmed, you know, I will focus on this relentlessly, and I would hope that we would not have any more issues like that at all.
Thank you.